I thought everybody with ADHD was going to have the same exact job. Like, this is the secret job everyone with ADHD has. And finally, when you're here, you're happy, you do really well. But honestly, what I'm going to tell you surprised me like crazy. I've coached over 1,100 people one-on-one. The thing that really got me by surprise was that people with ADHD are literally in any job. 20% of people with ADHD are out of work. What matters in order to do well and to be happy and thrive is not the specific job you have. What matters is all of the needs you have specifically about you are met in those jobs. And you can find that in any job. If you're just getting started and trying to find out what job you want to do and you're just kind of overwhelmed, I would ask yourself these questions. How do I feel like I'm going to make a difference? How do I want to make a difference in the world, even on a small scale? Another one is, what kind of problems do I like to solve? What kind of problems would I be willing to solve every day? What kind of problems do I not want to solve, right? Get really clear. What am I in charge of? What am I a leader of? The top issues I found for people with ADHD that made them struggle was it didn't have these few things. One is that they weren't able to solve problems. It didn't feel very valued. Their skills and creativity, the things that they had to offer that a lot of people in higher management didn't see as valuable, wasn't really valued as much. And when that happens, we don't feel as motivated. That leads us to factor number 2. We have to be able to naturally be motivated. So you can't just force us to like broccoli if we don't like broccoli. Instead, you got to say, hey, you know what? Let's find another way to get these vitamins in my diet, for example, and take smoothies that have these exact vitamins. This leads us to number 3. We got to feel creative in some way. I used to think you have to be a graphic designer, or some sort of artist, but you don't. In fact, most of my clients aren't even in the arts industry. They're accountants and lawyers and CEOs. So what I've taken from that is we have to feel like what we are doing is creatively thinking in some way that feels creative to us. Not necessarily artistic creative, but problem solving, again, thinking outside of the box. Leading us to number 4, it cannot be tedious. Like if it's tedious, we're just not gonna be into it unless we get some sort of meaning from it. But when I was a graphic designer at my first job, I loved it in the beginning, but then I was just doing the same thing every day. I felt like there was no problem solving. I wasn't making a difference. It didn't feel like to me, even though I was to them. And I felt like I wasn't really being creative anymore. I was just doing the same thing over and over. It like sucked the life out of it. And on top of all of that, you are going to work differently as someone with ADHD. And a lot of times I get clients telling me, hey, Nick, I'm kind of afraid to tell my boss or my manager about this because I don't want them to see this as a weakness. I would research this for your company, but legally, ADHD is a disability. Even though from what I've seen from people, it's totally the opposite. It's actually a super ability, but only when you can actually finally manage it and work on your executive functioning. But if you tell your employer that you have ADHD and you need help, I would look up the ADA because they have to follow those rules at most companies. But like I said, do research. And if you're too afraid to talk to them, you don't want to even risk that, just focus on managing your executive functioning. Because when you get really good at that, you will crush it. Every client I've ever had has at least doubled or tripled their ADHD management. Link in the description below, plug. I really hope this helped you. And if you like this video, you're going to love this video right here. Later, neighbors.